Have you ever had a moment where you wanted to escape? There's so much stress and overwhelm, frustration, and perhaps there's something in your life where it just feels like you're in the dip, right? The car isn't working, the dishwasher went out, you dropped the groceries in the middle of the parking lot. And sometimes you just feel like, I need a break from myself. Well, we're going to unpack that and so much more in today's episode 26, Wherever You Go, There You Are. Stay tuned. We all have situations, experiences, and moments in our life when we know deep at our core we have to do something different. We have to pivot. And regardless of how big or small that pivot is, it requires us to change something in our life. And that change can feel really uncomfortable. However, it is that change that is creating something entirely new. And it is that newness that creates a very different way of life in one area or multiple areas of our life. What's this all about? It is all about reinventing thyself. My name is Michelle Shutter, and I'd like to welcome you to Reinventing Thyself. I am so glad that you joined me today because it is here that we'll move beyond our old self, our old identity, and that trailer of garbage from the past that we like to pull into the future, but really need to ditch that hitch. It is here that we'll move into that place of reinvention and embracing the newness of it all. Are you ready to step into reinventing thyself? Because guess what? It is never too late, and your time is now. Let's get started. Hey, welcome to this week's episode 26 of Reinventing Thyself, where we are going to dive into wherever you go, there you are. And I must put a little disclaimer out before we jump in, because if you are catching this on video, you're going to see a little red, like a little scoop around my neck, a little fashion statement, if you will. Yesterday it was beautiful, so I sat outside. The temperature still was a little chilly, so I had a coat on, a little scoop neck, but wouldn't you know, I got sunburned sitting out there. Regardless, it felt so good to be able to sit outside, sit in the sunshine, and compose some notes for this week's episode. It had been, 11, 12 days where we had gone with like rain or sleet or snow, some kind of precipitation. So yesterday, just thoroughly enjoying that weather and being outside was so great. And this week, I talk a lot about reinventing yourself in some way, because when you are in the gap, you cannot get to where you want to go, that end result, without reinventing yourself in some way. And so that requires you to lean into the pivot, embracing that pivot, embracing that change, whatever it is, and embracing the life lessons that you're supposed to learn along the way. In addition, it's moving boldly through that new beginning and beyond, and absolutely finding your greatness in probably the last place that you would look, in the gap. And bringing that all together really supports you in elevating yourself to your highest self. And today's episode, though, is going to be a reflection of you. And I'm going to dive into that a little bit deeper, but have you ever asked that question of, my gosh, I need to escape. I need a break from being me. And we get to those points because the amount of stress that we're under, we may be overwhelmed with the amount of responsibilities and things to do. We may have just a lot of responsibilities, right, with kids and work and schedules and everything that goes to running a family. It may even be like a week or a couple weeks where you feel like you can't catch a break, right? You're in a series of dips. The car isn't working. The dishwasher broke down. I dropped all my groceries in the parking lot, right? So it just feels like all these things are just not working in your favor. And so you resort to this place of, I need to escape, right? And you're looking at that front door thinking, oh my gosh, what would happen if I walked out that front door and I didn't look back? And I want to share that with you because when you are in the heart of raising kids, that feeling can come up, and that is a legitimate feeling. Don't try to push that away. I invite you to explore that a little bit more, but also know like you are not alone. I remember that when my kids were littler, feeling that as well, like, oh my gosh, what would happen if I just walked out that front door, right? Like, for a variety of reasons that I was feeling that way. And it wasn't because I didn't love my kids or love my husband that I wanted to ditch them. It was just that, my gosh, I felt like I needed a break from myself. And I had a coach once challenge me on that, saying, what does that mean? You need a break from yourself. And so that really led me to think and reflect on, is it an escape from them and life, or is it an escape from me? Because wherever I went, there I was, right? I wasn't escaping myself. And really what I realized was that I was in a gap, and I created a disconnection from myself through a variety of reasons. And I'm going to share some of those with you in just a second here. But we have to remember that when we enter the gap, it isn't this linear path. It isn't all rainbows and unicorns and yellow brick roads, right? Like there are going to be twists and turns and ups and downs and lefts and rights and backs and forwards and loop-de-loops. Like all of that is going to happen. And we have to realize that that's part of the process. That's part of the plan. But sometimes we get so wrapped up in the control of things and wanting things to be an exact way that we burden ourselves and we feel like we need to escape. But yet, wherever we go, there we are. And for a lot of women, there are some things that we absolutely suck at, myself included. For it has gotten better over time, and I would hope for you that if you do the work, it would also get better for you over time. But one of the things that we suck at is boundaries, especially when we're in the heart of raising kids, and even when kids are older, right? Their schedules are filled in a different way, and it requires parents in a different way. But creating some boundaries for yourself is certainly will support you with this, but yet we suck at it. And it's so easy to make sure everyone else is taken care of and you honor everybody else, and yet in the process, you neglect yourself. And so it makes sense that over time, we're beginning to feel this angst in us, right? That keeps on building. It's almost like this, the wall, right? That just keeps building and building and building to the point where you feel sometimes like you want to explode. The other thing that is really a challenge is we don't take the time to tap into our greatness. And we don't do that because we're not even aware that we're in a gap. I can tell you that you are pretty much always in a gap because you are always growing in some way. That you can also think of the gap as this kind of upward spiral, right? And because you're always evolving and creating a new version of yourself. Sometimes, though, that the coils of that spiral are compressed really close together. And when they're compressed close together, it's at times it feels like there isn't any movement. And the movement is so slow that you don't even notice it. And yet there are other times where that upward spiral, the coils expand, they're farther apart, and so it feels like we're going faster and moving more quickly through the gap. The one thing we have to realize, though, is that for us to tap into our greatness as women, it's going to look different for every single woman. Okay? It's not going to be the same. And it's not going to be the same because we're in a different spot in our life. It's a different journey. And the other thing is, some women have learned to utilize their feminine energy a lot more than others. And they have this beautiful exchange between the masculine and feminine energy. So another thing then that a lot of women suck at is utilizing that feminine energy. So wherever you go, there you are. Well, that feeling of escape sometimes comes from you are in masculine energy overdrive and you have not utilized your feminine energy enough to really create some cohesiveness, some exchange between the energies. Now, another thing that women, especially moms here, tend to be really good at is being that superhero, right? Like putting that cape on, and sometimes we take on the pain of others and we make sure, again, that everyone is taken care of in that space, but yet we neglect ourselves. And when we neglect ourselves, we end up self-sabotaging ourselves because we are not in tune with our own needs. So it's really important that we take some time and reflect on that. The other word that some people use is Wonder Woman, right? And so many times, whether it's a Wonder Woman or a superhero of some kind, we have to be really cautious that we're not taking that on as an identity, that we're not using that as validation for our worthiness, because it's false. It isn't going to support you, because living into an identity of a Wonder Woman or a superhero of any kind is really not sustainable, and it will catch up with you over time. When we become almost this outside figure in a sense, and we don't honor our boundaries, and we put everybody else first, and we're in this like masculine overdrive, we're really doing that at the sacrifice of a connection to our true self. And so what happens? Well, we disconnect. Right? We disconnect from our true self. So it's no wonder that we have these feelings of wanting to escape or wanting to have a break from us, from like who I am. And the one thing we have to realize is that if we escaped being the same person that we are, we would continue to have the same thoughts, the same feelings, and the same actions. Which means we're going to recreate the same pattern over and over again. And so what we have to realize that it is our responsibility to change. It's nobody else's. I know this one might be a tough one to swallow, but people cannot force you to feel a certain way. We have to take responsibility for our thoughts, our feelings, our actions. And if we don't look at the energy behind those, we're really short. We're not giving ourselves the full experience of the success that we deserve. And when we are in this space of always feeling like we have to escape and having this lack of interest in things and lacking passion and excitement, and we're so focused on problems, it really puts us in a very low vibrational state, like a victim level. And when we're in that victim level, we're in a dip. And it's really challenging to see the greatness. It's almost like you have blinders on and you can only see here, and you can't tip your hands open to expand it. And the one thing that we have to realize is wherever we go, yes, there we are. We have to make sure we honor ourselves in a way that is loving and that allows our greatness to come to light. Because that, whatever that is for you, is something unique and beautiful that other people deserve to experience. And so you might be thinking, gosh, how do I do that, right? So this is the process of reinventing thyself. I'm going to give you just 3 quick tips that you can do that. But I really want you to take some time and dive into that space of, why are you feeling like you need to escape from yourself? Why are you feeling that need to have a break? Where have you not created some boundaries? Where are you trying to live into a superhero? Right? So 3 ways to do that, to support you in this. Again, take what resonates with you and leave the rest. Come back at another time then and listen. But do take something and apply it, integrate it into your life in some way. So that first way is creating some awareness around your thoughts and feelings. A lot of times, like, that is really challenging because we are so close to it, right? And if our thoughts create our feelings, create actions, we cannot go into that place of blaming other people for our feelings. If we do, we're giving our power away to that other person. Why would we want to do that? And if you really think about that, no one can make you feel. No one has that control to hop into your body and select a feeling for you. Let me give you an example. So happiness, let's just talk happiness, right? Happiness is an inside job. At any moment, you can choose to be happy. Are there things in your life that influence your happiness? Yes, absolutely. However, all those things could go away. You could live in a cardboard box. Could you still choose to be happy? Yes, you could make that choice. Nobody else can make that choice for you. So when you think of like a current situation, you're angry, you're mad, whatever, can you choose a different feeling? Yes. Why are you angry? Why are you mad? Well, because so-and-so did this to me. Again, you get to choose. Could other situations influence the feeling that you are choosing? Yes, absolutely. But they are not responsible for choosing that feeling for you. And I know this sometimes is like, wow, I got to sit on this. And if you do, hit pause and just let that sink in. We want to make sure we are deliberate thinkers. And that's where that whole awareness comes in. In any given day, I think it's somewhere on the upward of 60,000 thoughts that we have. Well, my goodness, how on earth can we keep track of 60,000 thoughts, right? Like, it isn't going to happen. However, if you have a feeling that isn't feeling good to you, what is the thought that's creating that feeling? Sometimes we need to jump backwards, and that comes from having an awareness of your thoughts. Okay, so if you really want to get into this space where wherever I go, there I am, and I absolutely love it, you have to have awareness of your thoughts. The second thing is taking 100% responsibility for where you are right now. If you feel the need to dive into blame, just know that that is a victim level, and that is vibrating at a very low energy level. It doesn't serve you long term. It's not sustainable to your greatness, to up-leveling and elevating and accelerating your results. Taking 100% responsibility is truly an act of self-love. And as hard as that is sometimes, taking responsibility is sometimes a shortcut to really bringing our greatness into a whole new space. The third tip that I have for you is really setting up and honoring non-negotiables. So you might think, well, what are non-negotiables? Non-negotiables are something that you have in your day, each and every day, that have to happen. It doesn't matter what it is, what these non-negotiables are, but they have to happen. So let me give you some examples of that. Sometimes you have physical non-negotiables, physical wellness, we'll call it. That might be, sleep, exercise, hydration, proper nutrition. And you are doing that every single day. Like, you are super conscious of that. It doesn't mean you do all of these. It means right now you pick 1, 2, maybe 3 to implement. Perhaps it's about emotional wellness, that you are giving some time to yourself, to perhaps journal or reflect on your thoughts, some mindfulness time. Maybe you're reading some books or listening to some audio that is really supporting your emotional wellness. Perhaps it's social wellness, that you want to carve out some time to connect with other people and connect with yourself. Perhaps it's spiritual wellness, where it is maybe prayer or meditation or some stillness. But those non-negotiables happen. So even if it's time to self, right, some emotional wellness, even if it's just 15 minutes, you get that done 15 minutes. Like, that is non-negotiable. And so really honoring yourself is really bringing that back into, oh my God, that connection piece, that reconnecting with your true self. So again, those 3 tips are: create awareness of your thoughts and feelings, take 100% responsibility for where you are right now, and set up and honor those non-negotiables. Now, you might be thinking, gosh, I have had that feeling of wanting to escape or needing a break from myself. Here's what we have to realize. You are your number 1 best friend. And you better get along and you better love yourself for who you are, because this is a partnership. This is a relationship. You can't be wanting to escape, wanting a break from yourself, without bringing this all together and really loving on this partnership and this relationship that you have. Now, you might be thinking, gosh, this seems like a lot, right? And I get it. It can be a lot. And so what I wanted to extend an invitation to you for is, I am diving deeper into these tips during my next webinar, which is Finding Your Greatness in the Gap. I guarantee you that it is packed with value, that no matter where you are in the gap, no matter where you are in the journey, this webinar will absolutely support you in accelerating your results, bringing that greatness into even a bigger level, up-leveling it, expanding it. And we're going to do it from a place that isn't all about hustle and force, which honestly is a lot of masculine energy. And we really need to move into this space of bringing our feminine energy back into creation as well. So if that is something that you are interested in, make sure you grab your seat at greatnessinthegap.com. And this invitation is for you to move boldly. Like, this is a new beginning. We can move boldly through this and beyond by finding our greatness in the gap. Now, one thing that came up in this podcast is more than likely a new awareness for you, especially if I challenged you in thinking about this in some way. And here's the thing. You can't undo this awareness. Once you have it, you have it. You cannot undo it. So it is your responsibility to find and access your greatness in the gap, so that wherever you go, there you are. And I absolutely love to be with myself. Now, if you want some tools, some resources, some support in that and creating that expansion, don't forget to register for my webinar at greatnessinthegap.com. I would love to hear what resonated with you, what you're taking away from this episode. Just drop me a message. I will put all the ways to contact me in the show notes in the description with this. So until next time. Well, what are you waiting for? Whether you've pivoted and are unsure, or you're on the verge of pivoting, there is no better time than now for you to begin. Want to know why? because if it wasn't the right time, the pivot wouldn't have shown up. And to get you started, I've got 3 shortcuts to reinventing thyself. Just head on over to www.reinventingthyself.com and you can download it there. And don't forget to message me with the shortcut that resonates with you the most. One last thing, I know you and I are not the only ones that have leaned into the pivot. Be sure to share this with others so they can be supported too. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you for supporting me in sharing this message. Until next time.